Good morning, all. Myself Chandra. In our previous sessions, we have created APIs and we have created the flows, and also we were connecting to the different services like REST service and also MySQL database and file connectors. So in this, we all have outputted the values or connection details. So in our today's session, we will mainly focus on how to extract those properties from hard coding and how can we put in a file. So to enter into the session, today we will mainly discuss about what are the properties. Okay. Basically, property is a placeholder. We can use properties to define values and we use them within our API. So by using these properties, we can create the configuration and also we can provide the dynamic connection details. For example, the details, whenever we are implementing the APIs, so we will have to implement the APIs for environment specific. I mean, first initially it will be for the development environment, and then finally we have to move the code into production. So the details or connection details or third-party service details will be differed from environment to environment. So we need to provide the connection details dynamically without making changes in the code. And also there will be secure properties. So secure properties means there will be a sensitive information like passwords information, and also sometimes we need to send the data in a encrypted format. So by applying some algorithms and methods, we can secure the properties. So first of all, we will have the different environments in the organization because we wanted to maintain separate code and we have to perform unit testing and also QA testing, and we have to perform load testing, and then finally we need to move our code to production so that we won't have many issues or major issues in the production environment when we were live. So first of all, in this session, mainly we will concentrate on externalizing the properties. Two ways. One is we can define the dot properties file, defining dot properties file. So in this dot properties file, the syntaxes will be like below. We need to provide the name of the key that how we wanted to read. For example, if we need to read a value of database host name, so we need to provide the value like mysql.host. And by using this, we can read the value. And if we want to read another detail of the same database, then we can use mysql.port. So we are defining the name, common name before, and then, so here we are trying to create multiple properties for same connection, host name, port name, user, database, and password. Likewise, we need to create for other services as well. If there are any, we are consuming the services within our API. So this is about how we can define the properties by using dot properties file. And there is one more way that we can define our properties by using .yaml configuration. So in our .yaml configuration, the syntax is like key name and value. So it is like JSON format only, but there will be slight difference. So if we want to define our configuration values, we need to define it like key and value. And if we want to create more common properties for one connection, for that, we need to create key and then sub key and the value. And if there are multiple properties for this main key, then we are going to provide it as sub key 1, sub key 2. Likewise, we have to provide the values. This is how we can define the properties in YAML. So first, we will have this database connection details, and this database connection details we are going to provide by using dot properties file. And then we will also create a .yaml file as well. I'm going to Anyone Studio. So in our source main resources, create a new file, and in this file we are going to use common properties first. So common dot properties. So I am creating one common property transaction domain and also another one header system. So that header system I wanted to define as a header dot target system. So in our common properties file, we are creating two properties that we wanted to use across the API. So for that purpose, we need to provide the value like key equal to value. And this value we need to use specify without the double quotes. And this is how we can define the properties with dot properties extension. I am saving the changes. And we are also going to create one more file that we wanted to read dynamically. That means it is a environment specific. So for that, I'm going to create one local.yaml file. So in this scenario, we are creating .yaml extension file. And in this file, we are going to save the database connection details. So this will be the details. And we have to define the values in a key, colon, and then a value. And since we have multiple properties for the connection, we are creating one main key and then sub keys here. Save the changes. And our properties are in two different files. One is common.properties and local.yaml. We need to read these two files to load the values and read the values. For this, go to our source menu and create a global file. So we are going to define our common elements and configuration elements or connection elements within the global.xml. And here we are going to create one configuration property. And so in this file, we need to mention which file we have to read. So I'm going to provide the common.properties file. And we also need to load another properties file that is the local.yaml. For that, we need to create one more configuration properties. Here, mention local.yaml. So we are going to read two files and we will access the values. I'm going to create one separate configuration file. For this, I'm mentioning access properties. Here we are going to create one flow. And within this flow, we are going to read the files common properties and environment specific properties. As of now, we have not provided the value dynamically, but we will see that. Define the resource as properties. And I'm going to use logger. And within this logger, we are going to access the property, common property. And that common property is transaction domain. So to access the properties in logger, we can use dollar and then flower basis. So I am going to copy this key and then provide that value. And after that, I wanted to also read another local specific value. So here I want to read mysql.host, mysql host. So dollar and then mysql.host. We need to read the value by using key.subkey. We are also going to define one transform message, and we will see how we can access the properties from transform message. JSON. Here I'm mentioning common property, and that common property is transaction domain. So to access the properties within the data we have to use P and then brackets or parentheses. We can even call it as parentheses. Provide the value either in single quotes or double quotes. Our value is header.target system, and then another value we wanted to read dynamic value. So this dynamic property is mysql dot port. Save the changes, and here we are also going to define one more file, dev.yaml, and this dev.yaml file we are going to provide some other values. Instead of localhost, provide the host name as Mars and then port number 1006. Save the changes. So we have defined two environment files, local YAML and dev.yaml. And to read these files, we need to provide a runtime property or dynamic property. So to provide a value, we can create one configuration, global property. In this global property, we have to mention the environment. For example, we want to define this environment values as mule.env, and we are going to provide the value here, local. And this global property value, we have to use and specify the values. So that we will see. I'm going to save the changes and I will deploy the application. As of now, we are not reading the files as dynamic, but we will see. We have hard-coded the value only to load common properties and local.yaml file. And even though we have defined this global property, we are not yet using it. Application is deployed. We will now test it from the Postman. Provide the resource name as property and then send a request. No listener for endpoint. 1 second, let us verify. Okay, here we have a best one. So we need to mention API/properties. If we see, we are having common property MySQL and the dynamic property is coming as now. We will verify if there is any issue. So we have local.yaml and okay, mysql.host. So we are going to access properties and open the transform message. Yeah, here while reading the property, we have mentioned MySQL SS capital. So change that and redeploy the changes. Send a new request. Send a new request. So we are able to read the values from dot properties extension as well as YAML extension. The way that we are going to access the properties within the application or flows or even the transfer message or loggers, we have to define the keys. Like if there are key and subkey, we have to mention with key name dot subkey name. And if it is having only one key, we have to provide that particular key so that we are able to access the values, even though it is in dot properties extension file or in dot YAML file extension. Let us also verify the logger here. And if we verify here, we have a common property supply chain and MySQL host is local host. So that means it is reading the values from local YAML and also common properties. So instead of reading the values from local.yaml, if we want to read the values for dev environment, so without changing the application, whole application, we should be able to provide that values, the dev.yaml properties within the application. For that, go to global.xml, and here we have defined one property, mule.env, and we are going to use that mule.env property here in our properties like configuration properties where we have defined the global element. Here, instead of reading the value directly local.yaml, mention the global property mule.env so that this property is going to read the value which environment is defined for that, and then it will load that particular YAML file. As of now, here it is a local. I am going to change it to dev. Deploy the application. Retest the application. So instead of reading the value 3306, we need to get the value of, so dev.yaml file is having a port as 1006, and we will also verify the log. And here MySQL is coming as Mars. That means we are able to read the dev.yaml file properties also. And we are able to read that value dynamically by providing a simple property mule.env. And if we want to change these values dynamically at our runtime, then you can make this change at runtime properties as well. So whenever the application is deployed to Cloud Hub, there can be a provision to provide the values at runtime. And we can also do that from local machine. So right click on it and go to run as configuration. And within run as configuration, we have environment tab. Add a value mule.env and provide the value as local. So this property will override the property that was defined in the application. So this is going to take a priority. Send a request. Application is deployed, send a request. So even though we have defined the mule.env property as dev environment within this application, it is reading the values from local environment. If you observe dynamic property, it is coming as 3306 because we have defined a runtime property as local. So now we will create one configuration for MySQL and we are going to read the properties from local.yaml and we will check whether that connection is working fine or not. So create a MySQL DB database configuration, MySQL, and here we have to read the properties with dollar MySQL.host, MySQL.port, user, and password. We have to provide everything here. User, password, and DB. Click on test connection. We have not deployed the application, but we are still trying to create a connection within the application itself. It is feeling, let us check the values. Okay, it is trying to create the connection with MySQL, Mars, and then 1006, which means it is trying to read the values of dev environment. As of now, save these changes. So here, whenever we have not deployed the application, so it will try to load or read the values that is defined within the application. So I am going to do one more thing. Instead of this, I will delete this global property and I will try to test the connection. Earlier, we used to get the values like unable to create a connection. But now it is throwing an error, couldn't deploy the application and could not find configuration property value for key mule.env. That means whenever that property is not available, then it is throwing an exception, unable to read the property. So we have to define the property before deploying the application, or we have to define or configure the property in runtime properties. So we create a global property and mule.env. Since we have dummy values in dev environment and it is throwing an error, we are going to connect to the local environment. Test the connection for MySQL database. Localhost 3306. Okay. I'm going to start the service for MySQL and then we will retest it. Service MySQL server is started. I'm going to retest the connection. Now the connection is successful. Click on OK. So as of now, we have read the properties which are common for the application and also which are specific to that environment. Now we will see secure properties. You can go to this URL and you can download the secure properties too. So we have seen common properties here and also reading the properties and reading the properties in connector configuration are loggers. So to secure our information, we need to use algorithm and methods. By using algorithm and methods, we can secure our information. There are multiple algorithms and modes. There is AES algorithm and CBC, Blowfish, and you can use that with the CBC, combination of things. And for AES algorithm, we need to specify a key. So whenever we are going to use encryption algorithms, we have to specify an encryption key, and that encryption key length must be 16 for AES algorithm. And likewise, for every algorithm, there will be certain conditions to match that criteria, then it is able to produce the encryption property. And in our SQL connection, we have a password, and that password we wanted to protect or secure it. So we are going to create a secure properties, and then we will use a secure properties module. And from the secure properties module, we are going to create a secure properties file, YAML file, and we are going to load the properties file, and we will read the secure properties in our application. So to use the secure properties too, there is a syntax. So syntax is like it is going to run on the Java command, and we have to provide the jar file which we wanted to use and the class name. And it is going to accept few parameters like method. So method is going to provide the information like whether we wanted to encrypt or decrypt a string, or whether we want to encrypt all the properties in the file, or if we wanted to encrypt the content of the file. This kind of information we can provide by using the method. And the next thing is operation. So operation means whether you want to encrypt the information or decrypt the information. And another one, algorithm. So algorithm is AES algorithm or blowfish algorithm we have to provide. And another parameter, mode. So mode we have to provide the CBC. This depends based on the organization need, which algorithm and which mode we wanted to use. Accordingly, we have to implement this. And the next one is encryption key. So key means we have to provide an encryption key that we wanted to encrypt the values. And also we have to provide the actual value, which value we wanted to encrypt. So below are the examples. So in below example, like you can use a string, and also we wanted to encrypt the values using AES algorithm and CBC mode. And the encryption key is like Mulesoft, and value we have to provide. I'm going to run this command and then I will show it. For this, you need to open a terminal or command prompt. And from that particular location, wherever this file is located, you need to run this command from that location. So I'm going to use the command. And since it is the AES algorithm, we have to provide the key of 16 length, 16 characters length. Execute the command. And it has provided a value with this. This is our encrypted value for password at the rate 2022. And we will also try to use a special character of dollar within the value, or even if it is there in the key, then we need to use a special scenario like we have to escape that character, dollar character, because dollar is a special key within the Mulesoft. Like we are going to use that for reading the values and creating the connections dynamically. That is the reason we need to escape that character. For example, this is our value and we wanted to provide an encryption key for it. Further, use this one. And here you are going to provide an escape character. So this will be our encryption key. So this will be our encrypted value. So we have an encryption key. And value is this one, value 1. This is our value 2. We will create these properties in our Anypoint Studio. So here we are going to create one more file. Within this file, I am defining the values like local-secure.yaml file. So our information is mysql.password. Since it is an YAML file, we have to provide key and subkey separately. mysql.password and value we have to copy. And then we also have a special value like dollar value. I'm going to mention as dollar value. And the value for it save the changes. So here to provide the information, secure information, which is the encrypted value, we need to use a special syntax for this. Use exclamatory mark and within that use the square brackets. Within the square brackets, we have to provide the value. Save the changes. And now we are going to remove the password property from local.yaml file. So in our data, we use a secure property. Secure property we wanted to read by using a secure keyword. Where the syntax like secure and then the key name. So our key name will be mysql.password. And we also have another value, dollar value. Even though it is having a special key dollar, we still need to use or read the value by using a secure keyword. Secure and copy that key name. In order to read the values within the loggers or within the configurations, we need to use dollar. So I'm going to mention secure password here and secure password. Use the syntax like this, mysql.password. We need to use same syntax within the configurations as well. Since it is not part of that value, we have to provide the value by using secure keyword and click on OK. And now we need to load this local secure YAML file into our application. For that, we need to create one more configuration, secure properties. So this secure properties module is by default not available. So we need to add this module from the exchange, search an exchange, and here provide a value, secure. Select the Mule secure configuration property and click on add and finish. So it is going to add a dependency into the application. Now within the global elements, create a secure properties configuration. And within this, we have to provide the file. So which file we wanted to read it. File name is local-secure.yaml. And remember that we need to load the values dynamically for each environment and based on the application that is deployed into the environment. For that, we have defined one runtime property or global property mule.env. So for encryption key, we need to provide the value, and instead of hard coding it, we need to provide it as either a global property or a runtime property. For that, I am defining one key, mule dot encryption key. And if this encryption is at file level, we need to choose true. Or if it is properties and for each property, then we need to choose the false. And here you need to provide the encryption algorithm and mode. Our encryption algorithm is AES and mode is CBC. I'm leaving it to the defaults. Click on OK and save the change. We will try to test the database config connection here. Error type, and it is trying to read, okay. Could not find a property for mule.encryption key. Since we have not defined it as a global property, it is unable to read the values. We will try to deploy the application by defining the property mule.encryption key as a runtime property. Add a property mule.encryption key and value. So that value we can copy it from our file. So this is our value for encryption key and click on OK, apply and run. Application is deployed. Send a request from Postman. And if we see here, we are able to read the property secure property, which is having a @ as special character and also dollar as special character. Because if there is a dollar special character within the key or value, then we need to use a escape character. Otherwise, we are unable to read that particular value. For that, we will see an example. I'm going to create this. Another encryption key. So I'm removing the escape character here. Use the command prompt secure tool and then execute the command. I'm going to copy this and then we will use it as third property. Go to local secure file and then here provide the property as $value without escape. Stop the application. And now we are also going to read this value, and along with that we will try to get the values from database to see whether that connection is working or not. Save the changes. And now we are going to use a database select operation. Database select. And here we are going to use second database connection that we have created and use a select query. Select star from hpt.suppliers. Use a transform message. Transform it to the JSON. Deploy the application. So now, instead of reading the payload directly, we are going to assign this database result to a variable, and then we are going to use the payload of properties as well. So for that, here I am going to create a data like suppliers data, and I'm going to create one variable with the suppliers data, where start suppliers data, and properties will be within the payload only, since we will override the database operation with a variable. So here database operation, and here go to advanced tab, and in advanced tab we have output section. Within output section, use this variable name. So it is going to create a variable name supplies data, and the result of this operation will be assigned to this supplies data variable. Save the changes. It will be useful to keep the payload as it is before and after the operation. Application is deployed. Send a request now. And you can see supplies data is there, and just collapse it. And here we have values for properties. And we can check common property, we are able to read. Dynamic property is also available from local environment. And from local environment, secure properties, we are able to read secure properties and with the dollar value also. But the last one, dollar value without escape, is coming only till the password value. It is not providing the $2002 value. And this is because we have not provided a command with escape character in the value. So whenever we have dollars, we are special characters are dollars within the encryption key. So whenever we have dollars within the encryption key or within the values, then we need to use a escape character or backward slash. So this is how we can externalize the properties. Externalize means instead of hard coding the values, we are storing them in the properties file. And you can use them at multiple places within the application. And we have common properties. So common properties means across the API or application, it is common irrespective of the operation or irrespective of the environment where. And dynamic values are runtime values is like it is going to change from environment to environment. And secure properties, these properties we need to use a encryption to secure the sensitive data. And we also see other examples for securing the data. So as of now, we have encrypted string values only. Now we are going to encrypt the multiple string values or multiple properties that are defined in a file. Instead of providing value by value, we are going to provide the file and we are going to secure all the properties within that file. For that, we need to create a file first. I'm going to create one file. provide the file name as secure all properties dot yaml. And within this, I'm going to provide the values. So within this secure all properties file, we have two values. So instead of this, if we want to provide another value within the same key, we can provide that. I'm going to use password 1 and dummy password. Save the file. And this file, you can place it in your physical location or the folder location where you have a secure properties tab, where we have secure properties jar file. Now, from our terminal window or command prompt, we need to refer that file. So the syntax will be like, for encrypting the file level content. So for encrypting file level all properties, we have a syntax. So to provide security for each and every property within the file, then we need to use this syntax. And here we need to provide the method as file. So we need to provide the input file from which file it has to read, and we need to provide the output file name. So into which file the encrypted value is to be returned. So I'm going to use this syntax. Now let us verify this out file from the location, and we can observe that all the values and each and every property is the encrypted property now. So in this way, we can secure all the properties by using file command and also by providing the input and output file names. Now we will see one more example how we can secure the content of the file. So for that, I'm going to create one file here and I'm going to provide the content. So this is our content and we wanted to send this information in a secured way, or we wanted to send this by encrypting the data and send it to the system B. So to encrypt all the data within the file, we need to use the syntax and the method will be file level. And also we have to provide an input file and output file. So the content of the data will be encrypted in the output file and we can use that information in the application. Execute the command and let us verify the data in the output file. And here we can observe that all the data is now secured or encrypted